We're back on another exciting episode of Starfleet Boy, and this time I'm sitting.
Thank
I'm...
God. You look tired the last time.
All right. Well, at least my
I
apartment
was
is.
tired for you.
I think it is good to stand up, though. It's good for your health. There's a lot of reasons why standing is not a bad thing.
But not when you're discussing Star Trek
Star
Next
Trek.
Generation
You think it's a sit down?
in a
It's
casual and
a
informal.
formal environment. So you think that Star Trek is definitely a sit
I
down
think
type
so.
of conversation.
Yeah. I
All
think we
right.
would have to. Yeah.
All right. I'm gonna. You know what? I acquiesce to your wisdom.
You know what? It's your show. You do whatever you want.
It's.
Maybe I'll stand up next time.
I consider it our show, even though I'm the primary
You're the
host.
captain.
I'm the
You're the
captain.
captain.
I'm the captain. We're both.
You're the
It's like
captain.
Star Trek 6. That everyone's a captain on that bridge. Pretty much. I mean, they're not all captains, which I think should be corrected. I think they should all have been captains, but
I think they're all captain.
no, I think I went back and looked it
Is
up.
Chekhov not a captain?
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't think. And I think Uhura's not a captain. It's just Captain Spock, Captain Scott, and Captain Kirk. Those are the only captains.
What's McCoy? Is McCoy not a?
No, he's not a captain. Everyone else is a commander, which also is impressive. Don't get me wrong. You have
Yeah, I know, of course.
you have commanders and captains, like on all your ships.
Your whole
So,
bridge staff. Yeah.
yeah. But a lot of people don't realize that Captain Scotty is a captain.
He
Yet
could.
he
Yeah.
chooses to still be the chief
Engineer aboard the Enterprise.
He's married. Like, Kirk is too, but he has to share her with Scotty.
That's true.
It's true.
Is that the source of the tension between Doohan and Shatner?
It could be.
Did they on some level? Did they both know that?
I think they had to have. I mean, they're both great actors, and I can't imagine you don't bring a little bit back with you.
Yeah, right.
Like, how could you? I mean, I think you can. This is a weird way to start this episode. A matter of perspective is what we're talking about today on Starfleet. Let's reel it in, Doctor. I'm gonna reel it in for us.
All right, go for it.
All right, so I guess we could do the summary together, like we've been doing.
Okay.
Riker.
I was gonna let you do it. No, I was gonna have an apple pie. Just enjoy it. Sit back.
Let me see your apple pie. Is that from McDonald's?
No, it's Krispy Kreme.
Oh, I didn't know they made apple pies even. I thought.
Oh yes, absolutely. Oh yeah. No. Delicious. So go ahead.
Well, while you eat your apple pie there, which is very funny because it could be an apple. Like, Doctor, we could totally, we could totally hear you chewing.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I didn't know that was going to be a problem. I'll mute my mic while I chew. Then you go ahead and do the summary.
All right, but don't forget, if you want to chime in, just don't forget to
I will remember.
Unmute. All right, here we go. So we start off with Riker beaming back aboard the Enterprise from the space station, and he seems really upset. And when he is aboard the space station, suddenly, once he's aboard the Enterprise, the space station suddenly explodes. And then the mystery begins, and we find out that come with me, and you'll be in a world of true imagination. Okay. I can't. You're distracting me even in mute because I can see the Doctor. You can't see him, audience, but I can see him in a little tiny square on my screen, and it's terribly distracting. So I'm gonna look off toward the window over here. Or wait, no, I think he's done chewing. You're gonna have to help me out, man.
I'm sorry. I didn't know this was going to be such a problem.
I'm watching.
I'm trying to be casual and informal.
I'm watching your facial expressions, and I just can't help but crack up. I don't know what it is.
Okay, all right.
It's a very funny thing.
Space Station Regular One.
It is regular one. You're
It
right.
is Regular One, even though it's a different species. It's an alien race. They have I guess they have the template for the space stations.
Right. It's yeah. I think there's they're all prefab. It's pretty easy. There's only certain
And
designs.
Space Station Regular One explodes. Riker, there's a moment of suspense. Did we get Riker back? And thankfully, O'Brien managed to beam him aboard before the station explodes. And then it's revealed that Riker is accused of murder. The chief scientist aboard the space station was engaging in some research, and there's apparently
What was it
there
called?
was
The Creighton wave, Creighton wave,
Creighton waves,
Krieger,
right?
Krieger wave.
Krieger waves. Krieger waves. That's right. And so what happens? Riker, someone from the planet decides to come aboard and arrest Riker. And Picard's like, "Well, hold on a minute. Why don't we do a hearing and let's hear it out?" Because he convinces the investigator that the holodeck can recreate the situation, the testimony of the people who are involved in the investigation, and proceeds to unfold is a sort of a Rashomon style recreation of what allegedly happened from the different points of view of the people who were aboard the station. Whilst this is all going on, the Enterprise is experiencing some strange, how would you describe it? Strange,
just anomalous events that are occurring.
It's cutting power. It's actually causing damage to the ship, is it not?
Yeah, malfunctions, right?
Right. And I believe it's Wesley. It's Wesley, right?
Yeah, this is a
Wesley with Geordi.
Wesley comes to save the day type of.
Wesley comes to save the day once again, and realizes, it's Wesley. Discovers that these Krieger waves are actually. The scientist did in fact discover a way of creating these Krieger waves, and because of the holodeck simulations are so exact to the most molecular detail, these Krieger waves are being reproduced accurately.
Yeah, they're being because the exact. You're right. It's using the specs provided by the station's data basically to create it. You're right.
Right. So they keep happening, and essentially, Picard in Inspector Poirot moment gathers everyone together on the holodeck and says, "It was you, Colonel Mustard, with the knife in the kitchen." And Colonel Mustard actually turns out to be the guy who was killed, the scientist. He himself created the explosion that blew up the station in an attempt to kill Riker. And that's the end of the episode.
There's 3 different perspectives shown to us on the holodeck simulations. And what I remember about this episode the most was how different those 3 recreations were. Like Riker's version, he's by the book. He's doing the Starfleet thing that you would suspect. In fact, it's almost a little too by the book,
isn't it? Do you think Riker is holding back a little?
There may there may be some omissions there, but I would say that I believe that it's for the it's very accurate. Then
it's not 100% accurate.
No, it's not 100% accurate at all. Which is actually
why do you doubt that? What do you think is missing?
To be cheesy, because it's a matter of perspective. Like, don't we all think we're doing the right thing when we're if we're good people, right? Riker's a good person, you know. I mean,
Riker's a good person, but did you get the sense that, you know, when people
I think
realized
I think what was
what
missing
was
from Riker's perspective, quote unquote, was I believe he probably did turn the charm on and flirt with with Dr. Abgar's wife. I don't think he was as professional, quote unquote, perhaps as we are led to believe. However, when we see her perspective, I don't think that's true either.
no,
I
no, no,
don't
no.
think that
That's
Riker was so
that's over
far.
the top.
Yeah, that was extremely over the top. But it was interesting to see though, because again, the episode is about people's perspectives, and one can assume, what if from Doctor his wife's perspective, Riker was definitely coming on strong, you know, like
Right.
that there's an argument for that. And then we finally see the I think that's it, right? The two
Well,
and then
the
the
technician,
oh
the
right,
assistant to
that's right.
the
That's right. She has her own
right, which I guess is there to fill
the missing pieces of
she's giving the dead professor's
right, the Dr. Apgar's story, I
right.
guess. Yeah.
She says, "This is what he told me,"
Right. And then it
and
kind of, you also actually then see a little bit more of a fair portrayal of all the parties, but then finally so somewhere in these three perspectives is definitely the truth, which is
right,
interesting.
right.
But then finally because of this mystery of these anomalies and the damage that's being caused to the Enterprise, it leads what's wonderful about this episode, it kind of leads Geordi and Wesley and Data, I think, is involved too. I don't remember because it's been a week or
Yeah,
so.
no, yeah, you're right. It's Data. Yeah, all
Yeah.
three of them.
So then that leads them to create an ending that is true, because in all the other endings minus Riker kills Apgar. The speculation is that Riker turns around and fires his phaser at Apgar.
Before he transports away.
Right. And what actually happens, as you described in the summary, is that Apgar was trying to kill Riker, but when the transporter engaged, it actually reflected the Krieger
It bounced
wave.
off. Right.
It reflected it back to the Krieger wave generator, and hence causing his own destruction. So that was the actual truth of the matter, was that that's what was happening. So very interesting. So yeah, I mean, I think that that is the most interesting thing, is discovering, kind of addressing that we all have different perspectives on situations, and what do you do about how do you navigate through life knowing that what your intention is may not be coming across too clearly to another.
Well, what I found most fascinating about the episode is the character of Riker. We don't get many Riker episodes.
Like this,
or at all, really. I don't think
guess.
Riker is one that we dwell on. Like he gets some, but we don't get a lot of Riker episodes. But I think it's interesting. Go ahead.
But I definitely feel so. I don't know if we get like a Riker specific episode often, but like there's the dad. We've already had like the dad episode. We've already
which was
had
last season,
right? And then we've already had the Q episode that
which was the
stands
first
out,
season,
right? And then you have and then Riker's a dominant figure in many episodes where he's not maybe the main focus, but like, for example, the Angel One, that's about Riker in a way.
Which was the first season.
Yeah. So I think Riker is, if we were to compare it to the original series, how the focus was definitely Kirk, Spock, and McCoy. I think it's Picard, Riker.
No. I think we've got Data, Picard.
You think Data?
I think we clearly.
I think above Picard. Are you listing him?
No. Yeah. Possibly yes.
Wow.
Depending on the season. Remember last season there was like a whole slew of Data episodes. I think Data and Picard sort of go neck and neck, I think, by the ending of the show. And I think Worf comes close third by the end of the show. Troy's up there, but I think Riker probably is. I mean, Dr. Crusher ranks at the bottom. And I think
What?
I mean I don't think she gets many. No, I mean I don't think she gets many episodes that it's about her, where she's
Right.
the central thing. But getting back to
I think
Riker,
I'm sure there's data out there. We're gonna have to look this up. But go on.
yeah.
Sorry.
Well, that's what this show's about, right?
Right.
That's what our thing is. We should keep tallies. So, anyways, I think what was most interesting is the fact that when it was revealed that Riker may have had a a little fling, little fatal attraction fling down there. Nobody really, nobody really, nobody's really surprised. There's a moment where Riker looks like he's literally crapping in his pants, and he turns to Picard. He's like, "Captain, I think a word with you in your ready room, and oh, may I have a word with you in your ready room?" And Picard's like, "I don't think it would be appropriate right now, number one," and he just walks away. And it's sort of the implication is like, you were thinking with your, what down there, and
Yeah, do you
I'm
think
not
so do you think
gonna.
do you think
You're
that was the
in
do you
the
think
corner.
Picard was like kind of saying, Riker, if this is true, like
He's
like
kind of like, oh, yeah, Riker. Why?
but I don't think
I think so. Yeah, I do think so.
well,
I mean,
so I
everybody's
think we have to
trying.
look at
Nobody
this.
believes he killed the guy,
Wait,
but I think everybody believes that Riker may have.
use
They would be surprised that he did something with the wife.
wow.
That's the impression I always got, and I don't think there are other episodes where people are accused of this or that, and Picard is very much, there's always a scene where Picard's there in his room and is like, we're gonna fight these charges, we're not gonna da, 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 da. But there's really not a scene in this episode where Riker and Picard sort of sit down and say, look, Will, we're gonna fight this, don't worry, I know you didn't do this. There's not a scene like that in the episode that I recall. I mean, Picard has a scene with Troy
I
where
think
he tells her
I think
that I don't know, that
yeah.
Troy is actually kind of vouching for Riker, and Picard's like, I know, but what can I do? They're right. They're within their rights to have Riker arrested and all that. So no one is I mean, and obviously Wesley and Geordi are working hard to prove that this phenomena is involved with the explosion. But as a judgment on Riker's character, I think it's kind of interesting.
I think so. And I think that like I have to kind of take myself back to the first time seeing this and what was that like, and I recall some feelings that reflect exactly what you're saying because we didn't know season 3 we didn't know Riker very well at this point, and this is kind of like one of those moments that like it hinges on your opinion of the character more than anything. And when it comes down to it, I think there is a part of us that can see Dr. Apgar's wife's I forget her name, but her perspective, and again see that she might be yeah, I get it. I definitely see
Yeah,
that. And it's hard now because of course now I see Riker in his whole context, as a character. Like we have the benefit of discussing this in as a rewatch, so we know Riker's a great guy. So it is hard to kind of like but yeah, at the time I do think, and I think it's fair, like Captain Picard, there's an overwhelming, it seems like there's an overwhelming amount of evidence to prove that there was a discharge of energy from Riker's location, you know
right. That's the thing that really is the issue, is the hard issue that they can't explain away, which is why do they have the reading that there
that there
was
was
a
discharge.
phaser.
Yeah, oh no, it's
There's
just
a discharge,
energy.
an energy
Yeah,
discharge
right.
from Riker to where the somewhere aboard the station. Which I mean, I'll say this: I enjoyed the episode. I enjoyed the episode because I thought I mean, I guess they call it the Rashomon style, right? Where it's like every It's like 3 different perspectives of the same
Right.
event,
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
which
it's
is
actually like
it's of course it's something Akira Kurosawa came up with for the movie Rashomon, which I guess had not been really done before. It was as a break from typical film narrative, where it wasn't a flashback; it was actually different perspective of the same event being shown to the audience, and you as the audience had to make up your mind. Well, what's true and what isn't?
right.
Um, so I like that aspect of the episode, but I thought the central mystery was was very weak. I think as soon as we saw that there was some anomaly with the Krieger waves, I mean, it's kind of obvious that's going to be the MacGuffin. That's the thing that okay, I got the
Right.
MacGuffin, but
Right.
that's it. That's the answer. You just have to get to it, and there's really not much mystery left. I mean, it's just sort of
But
figuring out how it did it, but that was the smoking gun.
the
Um,
the episode, though, you're right. There's not a lot going on in terms of like mystery and
no,
plot, except for of course, the Riker, the actual like what happened situation, the three
right.
perspectives, like which is the real thing. But I did think it was an interesting commentary because I think the prosecutor, there's a scene where Picard's like, in our system of in our, right,
Yeah,
right,
or of
exactly,
law.
jurisprudence. Thank you. In our system of law, you're innocent until proven guilty, which is very much like the system of law here in the United States. Habeas corpus, have the body. And then the prosecutor, what's his name, Crag. He's like, well, you're under our jurisdiction, and you're guilty until proven innocent in ours. And there are systems like that in the world. Isn't the British system?
Isn't the British system like
Yeah,
that?
it's you
Yeah,
have to prove your innocence, right?
right.
Instead of having to be proven guilty. So it's interesting to see the the kind of that argument is still going on
Yeah,
in the future, and it's a great way to bring that argument up, which is the better system. Should the person being accused have to work to prove that they are in fact innocent, or should the person being accused, you know is the burden of proof on the accuser to prove that the person being accused is
it's guilty. It's in
guilty?
fact guilty. Right.
Right. So which which is better? What do you think, Doctor?
Well, I like our system.
Me too.
Very happy with our system. Um, for sure. I think when I was watching the episode, one of the things that struck me was because I mean, Picard sort of takes lead as basically the defensive counsel for Riker, and it seems well, here's a question: why doesn't you would think that the Enterprise D would have, at the very least, a diplomatic corps always ever present. I know that the Enterprise frequently shuttles diplomats back and forth, and we've seen that already on the show. I know the captain has the powers of diplomat, but you would think that you would want a diplomat there, because I think, it isn't being captain of the Enterprise enough for one guy's plate. I mean, does he have to be, or does she have to be lead diplomat in these situations as well? You would think there would be an office, or there would be like a small part of the crew. I mean, this is a Galaxy class starship. You would think that there would be somebody who would be, when something like this happens, where there are transgressions of laws in other cultures and other planets, it's their job, like a JAG, let's say, that show JAG that ran for so long.
Mm-hmm.
Why is there not a Starfleet JAG that, okay, it's his or her job to go defend Riker? Why does Picard have to, okay, I'm going to, in addition to everything else I got to do on this damn ship, I got to be I gotta
Well,
be. I gotta defend my first officer in this. I mean, obviously he's doing it out of loyalty, but at the same time, you would think there would be somebody,
I
because this
yeah.
situation comes up often enough that it's not the first time Picard does this.
The thing about having I get where you're coming from to an extent, but I think that for me what I see here is because we do Picard's diplomatic skills are very prominent and evident, and he certainly like enjoys it to some degree. But I think that it's been established even since the original series that diplomacy is a prerequisite skill set that every starship captain has to have. I think just from the perspective of the mission of Starfleet is an exploratory mission. Being a captain is almost like you know being an able captain is not that difficult. Like you have an entire capable crew, you have advanced technology at your disposal. Like the captain rank is like certainly necessary because they treat it like a navy. It's a navy. It's all these things, but really the captain is the representative of the Federation, who on whatever ship. It doesn't matter if you're the Excelsior, the Enterprise, the Farragut, the Defiant. If you're making a first encounter with an alien species, or you're even going to a routine mission to deliver medical supplies, you're going to be dealing with the leaders of those planets. You're not going to be dealing captains you know captains of starships in the Federation always deal on these large scales. So I think that, to me, again, it's just we have to just assume that one of the 101 at Starfleet captain school is diplomacy. It's like, don't fuck it up. If you travel to this planet, you're going to be talking to presidents and queens and kings and all this stuff. You need to be trained this way. So I think that's one thing. But I wouldn't be surprised if there are other members of the crew, such as Counselor Troy. The Enterprise is like, I think, overly equipped with diplomatically able members of the crew, if you will. Counselor Troy can do diplomatic things,
That's
like
true. Troy, and she's present during the.
right.
Isn't she present during the deliberations and all that?
Yeah, deliberations. Riker is capable. Data is capable. And then it gets less important for some of the other. But already you have a mini diplomatic corps aboard the Enterprise right there. So like I think that the only time that situations that require diplomats are like really difficult situations, like the upcoming Sarek, where they only want I'm going to say the Chrysalians, but that's wrong because that's from a previous episode. But remember the people in that episode will only talk to Sarek.
Right.
And certainly he's made a career of being a diplomat in some degree, but Sarek takes care of huge stuff like peace treaties and so do we have someone like that on Earth? Do we have a Sarek of Earth? Like, is there a diplomat that stands out in your mind?
Well, certainly, I would say Jimmy Carter.
Yep.
Has done extensive work around the world he's certainly tried, I think, based on his one of the few successes he had during his presidency in the Middle East, and he's been involved in other situations, and sometimes the then current president has not wanted him to get involved, but I know Jimmy Carter has some standing like that, of that level, and certainly this guy that's recently passed away, who was a part of the Irish Republican Army, I believe, who ended up leading Northern Ireland. I know he would go to different places with a British counterpart to sort of show, the Irish and the English hated each other, and yet after years and years and years made peace. This is a guy who plotted to murder, and I believe did murder, members of the royal family, and yet when he passed away recently, none other than the Queen herself passed along her condolences to his family. I mean, what does that say? You know, we've come very far in having something like that. So there's just a couple of people, not like, I mean, Sarek is just like, you know, he's holy. He's like the Pope, a Vulcan. But I hear your point. I still think
and there is Starfleet has a diplomatic corps, but you also want it
Starfleet has a diplomatic corps,
to
which
finish, but right, but to finish the argument. Sorry, I just interrupted.
No, go ahead.
But,
no, I want you
to finish the argument, I would say that like with technology, it's easier to be in touch with diplomats. So like if Picard is in a quandary, he can open a subspace channel to, you know, Starbase 57, where the nearest, you know, or Starbase, you know, 245, where the nearest diplomatic corps happens to be stationed. I just don't think that the diplomatic corps, there should be a corps on every starship. Like I think that one would want to have a system set up with where diplomacy is an inherent part of, you know, procedure. And I think that's what, you know, that's what is present. I don't know if it's ever spelled out that way, but I would say that it's safe to presume that Starfleet has a very kind of diplomacy first attitude towards its exploration missions, and even its, you know, other missions.
You're certainly correct in recognizing that. I mean, the pattern in Star Trek has been that the captain is the lead diplomat, and that goes back to Kirk, and it continues throughout all the shows, and even on Enterprise, which is a prequel. One of the many ongoing growing pains of that crew is T'Pol trying to make Archer understand that he is the lead diplomat. You know, you have to be diplomatic. You can't just kick the doors down and
well,
punch everybody.
And that's a really great. You know, I do recall that being an interesting thing about Enterprise was that the first officer was the diplomat in a way. You know, like T'Pol had to teach Archer and to show, you know, and there was no Starfleet, of course, at this time. So
right.
It's very telling of what when Archer does establish, kind of basically establishes Starfleet, right? Isn't that the
Federation, actually?
He's integral in the establishment.
There is Starfleet, but there is no
right,
Federation.
You're right. Sorry, that's right. So in the establishment of the Federation, clearly T'Pol's influence on Archer has now, that's actually wonderful. A nice retcon, Star Trek. to have all of this diplomatic diplomacy first kind of attitude embodied in that relationship between T'Pol and Archer, and how it evolved into the founding tenets of the Federation, if I'm not too presumptuous here.
Yeah, I mean, it's just in this episode, I guess those are the thoughts I was having. I mean, you're right. Obviously, it's a tradition of Star Trek, and I like it. But you know, just as you know, every Star Trek makes certain decisions as to which secondary positions to sort of spotlight. I mean, on Next Generation, they decided to spotlight counselors, you know, through Troy. On Enterprise, they spotlighted the armory officer, which is something that previously had not really been a position that had been spotlighted before. I wouldn't mind seeing a Star Trek show have something like a JAG or a, you know, ever-present diplomat who maybe might, you know, butt heads a little with the captain. You know, maybe the captain is in a position where he or she will say this, but then the diplomats say, well, you're thinking, you know, you're thinking more like the captain of the ship and not the broader picture, which would be the danger of having the captain of the ship, in fact, be the person involved in things like that, where you are, of course, having loyalty to your crew, whereas the lead diplomat, in theory, would be always thinking what is best for the Federation and Starfleet rather than one man or one woman, involved in some scenario.
Right.
But
At the same time, though, I think that almost might make it's astonishing that we've gone on this tangent, and I have something to say about Star Trek Discovery because you just kind of triggered a thought. But I would say that you know that's certainly an interesting way of looking at things, but one would hope that because the starships have a variety of Federation members on board as crew members, that is what the captain is doing at all times, is representing the Federation. And so by representing his crew and by like thinking about his crew and its safety in diplomatic situations, they'll weigh everything. But at the end of the day, you do have to think about the safety of the Federation. You can't just give away the cart, so to speak, and
mm-hmm.
sometimes you have to go into aggressive negotiations to quote another,
Right.
what is it?
Another
franchise. But
yeah.
So your idea is very cool, and to have a different role spotlighted. Sarek's supposed to be a character in Discovery, and maybe that's going to be his role. Who knows? Like, I don't know if Sarek is intended to be, a character that's going to be ongoing or not. I don't know really a lot about Star Trek Discovery, but that might be an interesting. He might have a career, before he might have had a small stint on a starship where he served as the lead diplomat because they were going to, maybe there was a lot involved with hostile things like the Klingons, or something. I don't know. Could be interesting. We'll see. We'll know soon enough.
Oh gosh.
We'll know soon enough. Wow. So how do we get on this tangent of diplomacy?
Oh, because Picard's defending Riker.
That's right.
And I was thinking, Picard's got enough on his plate. He's got to defend Riker as well. Okay, to be honest, Troy could have done it.
Right.
Picard could have delegated it to Troy. Troy is a character that I probably spend a lot of time bashing on this show, on our little thing here. But I do it because I think she's a character that had potential, and I don't think her best. I don't think she was utilized in the best of ways on the show, right. And I think certainly as a counselor, an effort like this. Going back to the episode that I wasn't involved in, that you were just talking about with the guy who was
Finn, the Higher Ground,
where she's the one who brings it to the captain's attention that, hey, this guy he's just like a pawn of this government and all this stuff. And it seemed like she could have been the one more involved in that, because she was the one that really picked up on it from the beginning, that there's something wrong, that there's something more to this criminal that you guys helped capture on behalf of this planet. This guy is actually being used by this government, and it was she who discovered it. And so she has kind of like an investigative quality.
Sorry, you're talking about the Hunted, right? No, right. That's the Troy. I thought you were talking about the Dr. Crusher.
Oh, no.
Okay, sorry. The Hunted. Yeah, the one
keeps escaping.
Right. Okay, so but like, I mean, at the end of the day, though, I think Captain Picard isn't the type of commander that wouldn't represent his first officer directly. Like, he becomes Worf's Shadish in the discommodation episode. Like, we've seen,
and he defends Data when Data is
right. So I think that just Picard by his nature isn't going to let and there's a lot of weight to that. I mean, Picard's like a decorated, like very revered captain. So like when he gives a side, when he chooses the side of his crew, I think there's a lot of weight to it. And so that's why it's kind of poignant in this episode when he's like, hey, Riker, like, no, we can't. It would be inappropriate to have this conversation because, like, I can't. I have to be impartial.
Mm-hmm.
Here, it's a blow. Yeah, sorry, it's a blow to Commander Riker, I think, because I'm sure he just wants to know where the captain sits on his judgment.
Right, and I think he wants to assure his captain that, hey, I didn't
Right, he
have
also
any
wants to
kind
do
of
that, yeah. But
well,
I think it shows just I really love that Captain Picard isn't afraid to be completely like impartial and fair, and even if it means, and I again in this situation he is a fine diplomat for the Federation because he doesn't fully blindly take the side of Riker. He is open to the possibility that his first officer committed a crime,
mm.
and so that's important.
Now the other thing I wanted to discuss was the nature of the holodeck and its ability to recreate things so
Accurately.
accurately. Um, I mean, okay, this laboratory, I mean, the Krieger waves were being replicated because it actually recreated this guy's laboratory
Right.
perfectly. So his experiment worked. And I think there's a mention that the reason he didn't want uh, the Starfleet to know is because he may have been thinking of selling it to the Ferengi. I think he said, and the Romulans or something.
I think it
Is that right?
I think the Romulans were involved in this episode, which
I think the
I would like
Ferengi, and I believe
perhaps, but I would like to just bring
that's
up that
interesting.
I would like to bring up how often now the Romulans are being mentioned in season
Yeah.
3. And
Yes.
so
Absolutely.
I think they definitely this goes to like kind of prove a little bit of a point from an earlier discussion where I said the Romulans are a big deal in Star Trek: The Next Generation, and like
In this season, it seems like yes, they're building up to it.
mm-hmm.
But my assertion is that after a certain point,
It's just gonna drop. We'll see.
It's just going to drop.
But I think
but certainly in this season, we've had a lot. It's
right.
That's what I'm saying. Everywhere there's like something nefarious going on. Oh, but the Romulans, where in season 1 it was always the Ferengi. But here it's suddenly from season 3 onward, or actually maybe midway through season 2, we've got Romulans, which is it's building up. You're feeling the tension.
Right.
It's like a little Cold War going on there, and I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
So it's great that you point it out because it's true, absolutely. But okay, so my point is, like for example, when Geordi had his little holodeck, his little hollow love affair with Leah Brahms, and they're in they're recreating the warp core in the I mean like, is that really another warp core? I mean,
no, I think the difference,
what I'm saying, like how far does this go?
I think
how far does a holodeck go?
Right. I think the difference here is that like because it was a court proceeding, I think there was a request made for it to be as accurate as possible. And so I think that's, again, computers take things literally, like they don't infer anything. So the computer literally recreated, followed it's like the one time in the holodeck where Geordi requests an adversary worthy, or not even worthy, capable of defeating Data. The computer then, like, and remember in that episode, like resources get like like moved and things like that because the computer's like, well, okay, if that's what you want, I can.
Here it is.
Here it is. So it is interesting because it shows what the potential of computing in general is, and when we do get to the point where we are creating, if you look at what the holodeck is, it's actually like it's a self-contained universe. It's like it's smaller, it's bigger on the inside, or whatever. Like if you if you think about it, the holodeck is kind of stolen in a sense from, and this is something that it's nothing new. I mean, these are things that have come up in science fiction, entering a room in which you explore a whole universe. It's certainly Doctor Who comes to mind. But if you think about what is actually happening in the holodeck, it is fascinating because matter's being replicated at times, and then some things are not actual. It's a combination of all these technologies to make it a real experience. And like in the Enemy, I mean, what they're standing on is probably a replicated version of whatever mountain that is, like, but just like a portion of it, and then the rest of it is obviously simulated to make you feel like you're there. But I bet wind blows on the holodeck, I bet like smells.
No, yeah, absolutely.
All these things happen. So the holodeck's a wonderful place. I mean, like, and that is what we're developing. I mean, like, humans seem to be obsessed with traveling to places virtually, and I wonder what is behind that. I don't know, but maybe there's a feeling of safety when you put on a virtual reality, goggle, and that's certainly an interesting thing, but the holodeck is kind of the ultimate accumulation of that. And so, yeah, and then couple that with the ship's computer, which seems to be able to like think, which seems to be able to just give you what you want to an extent, so if you ask it for the most accurate representation of the APGAR generator, it's going to create using the data available, the most accurate representation of the APGAR generator. And so I do think that is fascinating.
I mean,
where I do think that there's a hole is, doesn't the computer then have safety protocols, like just general programming that says, hey, monitor this creation on the holodeck. If it's doing some weird shit, then let us know about it. And that's the part that I thought maybe was,
because obviously in this case, doesn't the computer itself make the connection that the Krieger waves that are harming the ship are a result of the holographic program happening in the holodeck? I mean, the fact that the computer itself cannot make that determination is a bit worrisome.
Right. Well, the idea
it takes Wesley to figure it out, which, by the way, I think it's great that we're back to. I mean, it's been a while since Wesley has saved the day. I feel like we haven't seen Ensign Crusher in a proactive manner in a while.
I don't remember what he does to even figure it out.
He just knows.
But
if I'm not mistaken, he's the one that figures it out, if I'm not mistaken. Him and Geordi.
I could be mixing so many things up, because there's also the later episode where the glass melts, remember? And I think Wesley comes up with
it's also Wesley.
It's also Wesley. I don't know if Wesley's the one in this one, is he?
Yeah, he is. Yeah, Wesley has, because I think there's even a comment made that Wesley is because Wesley has a special loyalty to Riker. Riker is the one
You're
came up with the idea of I mean, obviously with Picard's blessing, to have him be a non-commissioned crewman aboard the Enterprise, and Riker's the one who I guess makes his schedule and all this stuff. So he's got a special affection for Riker. So Wesley was you got the sense that he was working extra hard to help Riker.
That's right.
And,
and then you just triggered the memory, and I remember the burn on the Wesley and LaForge are investigating the whole thing.
Right. Yeah. The whole right. Now, and then the other thing, which is the
and it's Wesley's refusal to believe Riker is guilty that even leads them.
Because Wesley's a bit naive, right? And everybody's kind of like, "Wow, I gotta tell you." See, everybody else, all the adults in the room are kind of like,
"No, good on Wesley. Good on Wesley for for being naive. I think that's important. I think like with your, I feel like if you're, it's tough, man. It's tough because
Look, right. I think at the very least, the first season established that Riker is a bit of a Lothario. Is that the correct?
wow, would you? That's so.
Is that the
I don't
correct
know.
term?
I don't know.
My English is not.
Is
English is not my first language.
is he just? I just think of him as a harmless flirt.
Well, but okay, but then when you look at episodes like the Marvelous Acuna, and you see that there's this bevy of beauties who are just, yeah, leave the doors open and like, yeah, man, just come on in. You know, Riker has certainly taken advantage of that. I think you and I both know that.
But I think, and I think we've
So
talked about this before, but like sex in the future is viewed differently than today, and I think
right, I
Riker,
think Riker takes advantage of that.
he's like part of it. Like he's not,
Right,
it's not like he's taking advantage of it, but I think he's a lover, not a fighter at heart.
right, exactly. That's why it's no surprise that he may have done something with the guy's wife.
I don't think that. I do think that up until now we've
That's the
seen
impression I
nothing,
got.
up until now we've seen nothing to indicate that Commander Riker would be so unscrupulous as to like, actually sleep with another person's wife. And I don't remember.
No, right. No, maybe he didn't, but he
Right.
may have come on very flirty with her, and there's a little,
I think if you look at the relationship between Apgar and his wife from the Riker perspective one, in that one she throws himself on him. So something definitely happened.
and they
Again,
both.
kind of saw it in a different way because I think she's definitely not happy completely with Apgar. He was like a nervous guy. I mean, he's just like, he was worried about everything, and like the parts that we do see that are real, because doesn't it open with a discussion before Riker leaves, like between the two of them? There's like a hint of what he actually was like.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't the
Yeah,
episode open with the actual
yeah.
right?
No, I mean, there's definitely tension between the two of them in
And I
what we
and
genuinely see.
there's even a scene where Apgar's wife feels neglected. There's like, I forget. I
But
think it
that's
might
all
have been
interpretation of one person or another.
right, but it wasn't. But I guess what I mean to say is that there's, what to what level of extreme there was of that. But I think that Apgar himself, you know, was not the best husband. So I could see somewhere in the middle of this like kind
Right,
of
it's in the
story,
middle.
it's in there
But like
somewhere.
you
It's
said
like
before, Riker's interpretation came off as like, oh
yeah,
yeah,
no, it was a little
he
too
would
clear.
never flirt with a woman,
That's
God
true.
forbid. But he's a, I mean, no, I would never do that. But we all know that's BS. I mean, you said it was way too perfect. So
Right.
the
And
truth
but I
lies
think
in
I
the
think
middle.
you but I think you describing him as a Lothario maybe is a
Okay,
little
yeah,
too
that's a little too
it's
much.
like
That's a little too
it's
much. It is too, but you know what I'm yeah,
right.
but
It's
for a
like
moment, everybody was kind of like, well,
you're right. There's like this uncomfortable
it was like,
like
yeah, you're
thing.
like, hmm. So
Oh, Commander Riker.
now I did like what I did sort of think was I liked it, but it was cheesy. It was sort of Picard gathering everybody together, which of course, I mean, there's a perfectly valid reason for that. But I think the way it was done just sort of called to mind, those Agatha Christie mysteries where, Poirot gathers together all the people in the scene of the crime and says, well, this is how it really happened.
Right, right. There was a quality of that. You're
There
absolutely
was a
right.
quality of that, which I think the way, I don't know, there was something about the way Patrick Stewart played it. I think he may have really
You think
enjoyed
there may
that.
have, and maybe there was a nod to the Great Detectives.
Well,
Uh,
let's see. Let's see what the book says.
let's go to the book. Yay!
Maybe we're completely wrong. Season 3. Oh, I just realized what the next episode is.
What is it?
Yesterday's Enterprise. Uh,
Well, we'll talk. That is
okay.
that is exciting. I can't wait to talk about that one.
Oh my god. Okay, so this episode's major plot device, having an officer accused of murder. Oh, of course. Recalls Scotty's dilemma in the original Star Trek's Wolf in the Fold.
Oh.
Of course. How could I have forgotten that? But the use of the holodeck to recreate the scene of the crime adds an interesting twist. Director Cliff Boyle enjoyed what he called our little trilogy, another conceptual device that foreshadows episodes to come, including cause and effect,
Mm-hmm.
while filming one of the most claustrophobic bottle shows ever. After Data's unintentionally harsh criticism of the captain's artwork.
Oh, we didn't
Oh,
talk
we didn't
about
talk about that.
Oh God, that's a really good scene, I think. I like this.
Is she naked?
Yeah, it's figure drawing.
It's
Have
figure drawing, right?
you never done figure drawing? Do you draw, Doctor?
No, I
I
don't.
I draw and I've done figure drawing and
Okay,
the
no.
models are usually nude. You get
No, I've never.
you get over it very quickly. You're in a
Yeah,
room
no,
full
I
of
haven't done
people.
that. I forgot about that.
It's like yeah.
Picard has never been seen painting again,
This is true.
and in a moment that barely.
I think Data discourages it. Does it like that's a funny scene. Like that Data's like, I love how Ensign so and so is quoting, Picasso or
Oh
whatever. Like
yeah,
he goes through
right,
all these like phrases,
right.
and then he comes to Picard's, he's like, and he's
Hmm.
like, he doesn't really know. It's interesting, Captain.
It's
Like,
interesting. Yeah,
I love also we don't actually see the painting, which is great, right?
I think we see his. We see Picard's. Yes, I'm
That's
pretty
funny.
sure we see Picard's.
That's
Uh,
funny.
and in a moment that barely keeps the Riker Troy relationship afloat, the counselor can be seen squeezing number one's hand when he is cleared.
Oh.
Interesting. All right. That's pretty much it.
On the Memory Alpha, there's an interesting bit of thing here where it says Ira Stephen Bear and Ron Moore were scathing in their opinions of the episode, would both name it as the worst episode of the third season. Bear in particular called the episode a disaster and arguably even his least favorite of all the Star Trek episodes he ever worked on.
Wow. Oh, Ira Stephen Bear. Yeah, I can see that. He has a very high standard. He's Deep Space Nine's.
Well, yeah, it's true, but
Yeah.
still, I mean, I don't know if I would call this the worst episode. I would certainly we talked
The
a lot.
mystery is weak.
We talk a lot about rewatchability factor, and I will say it is a okay. I've seen it. Let's move on.
Yeah, the mystery is weak.
Yeah.
The only reason to rewatch is just to see Riker squirm a little. Because I mean, again, and it could just be my own interpretation, but I think the crew kind of, they're all kind of like, oh, did he really do it? But in general, if you look at the mechanics of the episode, it is intended to be a mystery, and the mystery is just not there. There is no mystery. You know that the professor's experiment is what has caused his death. You just have to figure out how. And to be honest, the technobabble is just not interesting. I think this is perhaps we're seeing the beginning of later Star Trek shows. I think were not accused, but were they really relied on technobabble a lot. I think that was sort of one of the nails in the coffin for Voyager. And certainly later Next Generation episodes could be accused of relying too much on technobabble. I think this is kind of an early indicator of, in in a typical mystery, let's say a mystery set in our time, we could, there are things that we could relate to where, I don't know, a knife, a gun, somebody sabotages a car and the brakes don't work or something like that. And we somehow have some relation to the crime, the execution of the crime itself. But this technobabble is something that we really don't have any relationship with. It's kind of abstract to us. So it doesn't really work in the context of a mystery, especially as something that kills someone. So I think
I guess that's where uh, it's a matter of perspective. To me, the mystery was not interesting, but the focus of it, to me, I guess I really love the exposition and like the
mhm,
exploration of the characters, and that's what was strong, very strong in this episode in my mind. So
that's the strength of
it's
the
like,
episode.
yeah, the strength of the episode. Interestingly, about the technobabble, again on Memory Alpha, scientific consultant David Krieger recalled that this episode was one of the few times that he was invited in person to a story conference. According to Krieger, the main problem faced by the writing staff was how to threaten the ship while still maintaining the proposition that the holodeck should not um, itself create dangerous objects. Krieger noted at the whiteboard in Michael Plur's office, I explained my idea of making the holodeck. So there are safety protocols that prevent the holodeck from being dangerous, to answer our question from earlier, the one that I posed, like, isn't there something, right? So Krieger's way around that, which I'd forgotten, was apparently that so I explained my idea of making the holodeck construct merely as a reflector concentrator for an outside radiation source. That's right. The reconstruction of the dead scientist's laboratory was not itself inherently dangerous, as per the
It's when it
series Bible.
reacts to the thing on the planet.
The power source on the planet is emitted
Right.
at every interval, and that's what we find out. So yeah, actually, the computer didn't create a dangerous anything. It had no way of knowing it was creating a dangerous anything. It just created like
The Krieger waves.
the
That's right.
actual reflector itself.
Right.
It was and so by doing that, whenever the power source would appear, it would create a Krieger wave.
But you can see where somebody could possibly tune out at all that.
I could see it. I mean, I find all that
And
stuff so
suddenly
yeah, but the
you're
problem,
like,
yeah,
what?
I think the science enthusiast in me has always loved all the technobabble, because it makes me always ask, what is that based on? Or it has gotten me to explore many things about science just by asking, what are they talking, as opposed to tuning it out. I think my curiosity is piqued by not knowing what the heck they're talking about, because I'm wondering how far did the production go in making this based on scientific theory, and oftentimes Star Trek does a really good job
They do. No,
of
they do. They
basing
obviously
things
do.
on actual theory of the time.
But it's a smaller audience that
I would I
is
would
interested in that,
Yeah, I would
whereas a
totally agree.
broader audience,
Yeah.
well, I guess we should, in light of hearing what everybody else on who worked on the show thought of it, I guess we should maybe salvage it a little. What do you
Yeah,
what do you
I
give
think
this episode?
this episode's going to be a 6.5 for me.
You like those 0.5s, don't you? You think that
Well,
somehow
you
gives
asked
it a
me,
little?
I wanted a 1 to 5 rating scale, and you said there was no subtlety in the 1 to 5, that
That's true. I
the,
don't believe in
the
subtlety
1 to
whatsoever.
10 has subtlety, and so
Yes,
I'm going to utilize the subtlety
the
here.
full range of that. Well, in that case, I will give this a 6.2315.
Wow. We're gonna have to go back and like record all of our ratings at some point. Now's the time to do it before we get too deep into our discussions, to just see what.
Apparently, DS9. I mean, Drunk Space Nine has a. Doesn't Drunk Space Nine have a tally keeper of some kind?
What database girl?
Database girl. Yeah. Why we need
Right.
a.
I guess we need a Data himself.
Yeah.
We need
We need somebody in stellar cartography to chart
I
our course.
Doctor, I don't know if we really talked about the episode, but like you said, there wasn't really a lot going on in terms of the
I
mystery.
think we talked plenty
No,
about the
but
episode.
no, but we went on these, like, in my view, we went on these incredible tangents, but I think they all related. Like,
I mean,
we did. You're right. No, we talked about it for over an hour.
we summarized it.
We summarized it. It's good.
We give visual examples with the figures. I mean,
So
what
at
do
the
you
end,
wanna...
at the end of the day, I, like Wesley, am choosing to definitely believe in Commander Riker, although I don't think his perspective, which naturally I think is established, is necessarily what really happened.
Right, right, right.
But
No, I
as
agree.
but
I agree.
as our friend Spock's great ancestor once maintained, if you eliminate the impossible, whatever remains, however improbable, must be the truth. And I think
There we
that's
go.
certainly the case here. All right, Doctor, live long and prosper.
Live long and prosper.